All right, let's go. Hello and welcome to Really Cool People, a podcast produced by Schweitzer Church. I'm your host, Jason Leininger. This is a place to hear stories of really cool people. And the hope is that as you and I listen, we'll be inspired, encouraged, and challenged through moments of serendipity. In a sermon entitled The Weight of Glory, C.S. Lewis said, "There are no ordinary people. You and I have never talked to a mere mortal." It's my joy over the next few moments to introduce you to somebody who may seem somewhat ordinary, especially to themselves, and yet they're a really cool person. Today, we're going to meet Mary Barnard. Mary was born and raised in the confines of Springfield. She graduated from high school, and she raised a family here in town. Many of you will know Mary because she's an avid singer, and she sings in worship at Schweitzer Church, and she also sings around the city of Springfield in a number of places, oftentimes singing the national anthem. She has a story about her singing and also a story about her life. So I invite you to lean in and enjoy this conversation with Mary Barnard. Today we're happy to welcome Mary Barnard in the studio. Welcome, Mary.
Thank you, Jason.
Let's start with your story.
Well, let's see. I've been a lifelong resident of Springfield. I was born here at Burge Protestant Hospital, which is now Cox Medical Center, on December 15th, 1956. I am the middle child. I have two older brothers and two younger brothers.
Surrounded by boys.
Surrounded by boys. I felt like I was the youngest child in one part of my family because my older brother's 12 years younger than me, or 12 years older than me, and then 9 years for the other one. And then my younger brothers are 3 and 5 years younger than me. So I was the oldest one in that family.
Yeah.
We're all in the same family, but just spread out.
Things change a lot in those years.
Yes.
Uh-huh.
And we lived on the west side of Springfield. I went to Sherwood Elementary School. I went to Jarrett Junior High at that point. They didn't call it middle school. I graduated from Parkview High School in 1974. I did not go to college. We were what I thought was middle class, but I really think we were poor compared to, life back then. And neither one of my parents went to college. My mom did graduate from high school, but my dad, he only finished the 8th grade. And when he finished 8th grade, he jumped on a back of a pickup truck and went to Idaho to pick potatoes to raise money or to help his family because he was one of 9 children and they were farmers. And so farming has been in my family for a long time. And I grew up in the Baptist church over on South Grant Street at Southside Baptist Church. I was in the choir there when I was in high school. We had an adult choir, but they allowed the high schoolers to be in it as well. I was in choir when I was, all through school. I've always loved to sing. I would never sing a solo, though. Never. I was in quartets. I was in madrigal, other ensembles, but I was too shy to do a solo. So I never sang my first solo until I was 40.
You're kidding me.
I'm not kidding, no. And that was here at Schweitzer when I sang my first solo here. And then some guys that were in our Sunday school class said that they had been practicing together in one of the guys' basements. They both played guitar, and they said, we've been practicing. And I said, well, kind of flippantly, someday if you ever need a backup singer, let me know. Well, a couple months later, they're like, okay, we're ready for you to come over and start practicing with us. And I'm like, what are you talking about? And they said, yeah, we're gonna form a little band, and we want you to be our lead singer. Okay. So I did. We got some more members of the band. We became a group called Under Pressure. And it was fun. It was really fun.
Uh-huh.
our first gig was an outdoor Sunday school party that we had at Carrie and Gail Randolph's home, and we called it Livestock. You know, but I was still not confident enough to really sing as a soloist, but I did it. I kept my sunglasses on the whole time, and that was how I got through it.
Wow.
But it was a fun time. We had a good time. We lasted a couple years, and then there were some musical differences, I guess, maybe, and we broke up. But
What kind of genre of music were you playing?
we did mostly 60s and 70s and some 80s cover songs.
Uh-huh.
So a lot of the songs I sang were what normally male singers, sang. And like Jumpin' Jack Flash, the Rolling Stones. We did some Eagles songs. We did a couple of we did a Linda Ronstadt song, Poor, Poor, Pitiful Me. And Melissa Etheridge, there was a song that I did of that. But most of them were male-dominated songs.
Uh-huh.
So we played at bars, which wasn't the best atmosphere in the world. And that was one of the reasons why I decided, it was kind of getting to be too much for me. Because some of the guys wanted to play all the time. And when you're in a band, you have to set up and then you have to take down.
Yeah.
And sometimes it's 1 or 2 in the morning before you're done, taking down after you've played till midnight or whatever.
Uh-huh.
And, I was 40-ish at that point, and I'm like, no, I can't. This is too much for me. So, but it had always been a dream of mine to be in a band. One of my brothers, Danny, he was in a band when he was in high school, and they used to practice at our home in the living room. Mom would move all the furniture around, and they'd bring all their instruments in and practice, and I always wanted to do that. So I got to do that, and that was good.
What kind of music did your brother's band play?
They played 60s because he was 9 years older than me. So they did a lot of Rolling Stones and Dave Clark 5 and Paul Revere and the Raiders and, things like that.
What did your parents think of all that? I mean, obviously, they embraced it to a degree that your mom moved the furniture.
Right, yeah. Well, my dad, he always thought the Beatles were like the biggest hippies ever. And so when they practiced, sometimes he would go outside,
Uh-huh.
But I mean, he never said, no, you can't do that, or I don't like that. Of course, they preferred country music. My mom and my dad did, but we hated country music back then.
Different style and different strokes.
Yeah. But now I've come to embrace country music more than I used to.
One of the things that you haven't mentioned is Motown, but every time I hear you sing, I hear resonance of Motown within your voice, and and I'm sure I'm not the first one or the last that'll ever say, you sound a little bit like Aretha Franklin.
Barth calls me Aretha.
Yeah.
And some people don't think that he should do that because they think that, I don't know if that's offensive to them or whatever, but I think it's funny. It doesn't bother me.
Yeah.
But I listen to Motown, obviously, on the radio or whatever. But I was always into the bands.
Interesting.
Or a female singer. I really liked Linda Ronstadt. She was probably one of my favorites. Pat Benatar. I never listened to church music really other than in the church. And being a Baptist, that's kind of not a good thing.
Yeah. So how did the Beatles and the Rolling Stones go down in the Baptist home?
Well,
Especially in the 60s. I mean,
Yeah.
it's probably different today.
Yeah. We just did it. I mean,
Hmm.
I don't know that our church, they didn't openly, say you can't listen to this music or,
Yeah.
you're bad. But I did it. I thought, well, it's not hurting me. So, I still listen to it.
I have my moments in time when I'm like some of that classic music is certainly on my playlist. And a couple years ago, we did a sermon series where Jim Mason pulled a song from the Eagles
Mm-hmm.
to be a focal point or to be a way into the sermon. And then the more I've listened to the Eagles, I'm like, there's deep spirituality that's being written and sung about
Yeah.
from the
And
Eagles.
I think there are several songs from other bands too that you don't
Yeah.
really think about until you do sit and listen, or you pull up the lyrics and you read them.
Yeah.
Um, they're not all that way, obviously, but like I said, I've not been hurt by any of
Yeah.
them. So,
You mentioned about your early life
mm-hmm,
that I mean your dad had gone off after 8th grade
mm-hmm,
and then he'd come back and I mean obviously I take it he came back because he came back and
right,
started a family.
yeah.
But what was he doing when you were growing up? Like
My dad was he was a transport truck driver for it was an oil company. He drove a gas truck.
mm-hmm.
And so, um, it was a pretty hard job because he had to drive miles to pick up the gas, then deliver it. And so, he was a hard worker.
Yeah.
And I said, we were from a farming family
Mm-hmm.
background. He still had a big garden.
Mm-hmm.
And that was one of the things that I remember, growing up, was that we always had a big garden. I helped in the garden. And I would rather be in the garden than I would be in the house helping mom clean or, do anything like that.
Yeah.
And I figured since I was the only girl, why was I the one that had to stay in the house? So I didn't. I went out and I helped plant, I helped pick and do all the things. And I still have a garden. And I plant an heirloom green bean that has been passed down in my family for at least 5 generations.
Wow.
And it was from my dad's mother's side of the family. And their name was Johnson. So we call them Johnson beans because we have no idea where they came from, what they're called. But I plant them. I can what I pick.
Yeah.
Like I've canned 26 pints with about 10 pounds of beans this year. And then at the end of the season, I let whatever is on the vine remain and they dry up and I pick the seeds out and I put them in the freezer. And then next year I plant the seeds again.
Have you ever thought about selling those to some of the companies that do heirloom seeds?
I have given some recently to a lady because she asked me about them and she said, "Where can I buy those?" And I said, "You can't." I said, "But I will give you some." So I did. I gave her some and gave her all the instructions on, what to do with them and how to preserve them. And then I've given some to my brother and I gave some I believe I gave some to my nephew that lives in Colorado, but they don't grow well out there. So, and then another cousin wants some, but I haven't sent them to him yet.
Yeah.
So I've tried to keep it in the family, but now none of, my kids, they're not interested in gardening a garden like that. They might do flowers, but, nothing other than that. And my brothers, besides the one that lives here in town, one lives in Republic and he doesn't have a garden. And then the one here in Springfield, he doesn't have one yet, but he's thinking he might have one.
Mm-hmm.
And then my other brother that lives in Mississippi, He lives in an apartment, so they're not going to have a garden either. And then my older brother, he passed away in 2006. So he tried growing them in Colorado because that's where he lives too, but they didn't work. There was not a long enough growing season, I don't think. So.
Well, that's a unique treasure that you have within the family.
Yeah. And I love it. I love the beans. I love to can them. I love, when I open a can, or it's a jar, when you can. But when I open a jar, it reminds me, I guess, of my heritage. And it's a part of me.
Yeah. That's fascinating. So did your mom work while your dad was driving?
No, my mom was a stay-at-home mom. Of course, there was lots to do since he had a big garden. We always had a barn with chickens, and we had a cow that he milked, and so she made butter. And I very vividly remember butchering the chickens, and her with a big pot of boiling water and dunking them and taking all the feathers off, and if there was eggs inside, she'd pull those unformed eggs out. And we always had fresh produce, fresh chickens. We had a pig. Dad would always butcher the pig, and so
butcher it right there on the
a couple of times he did, and it would hang.
That's a unique sight, smell, and experience.
She made sausage, homemade sausage. And so, and it was, it was just outside of town.
Okay.
But now it's inside the city. And it was just an acreage. It wasn't a big farm, but it was enough where it made me feel like a farm, So.
I was really happy when my mom decided that peas were best bought from the store instead of...
I don't remember if we ever grew peas. I like peas myself.
Yeah.
Dan does not, so we don't have peas at home.
Okay. Yeah.
But and a year after we got married, my mother and father got a divorce. They'd been married 34 years. And that probably, besides the fact, when my grandparents all died, that was all, very hurtful and sad. But that was probably my first real hurtful thing in my life that I, remember. And it was devastating to me because, as it turned out, when my dad was in the service, he was in the Navy during World War II, I guess it would have been. My mom got pregnant with a baby, and he told her that he would stay married to her, but she was going to have to give the baby up for adoption. So she had a little boy, and she did give it up for adoption. So I do have a half brother, and we met him later on in life after we found all this out. And he looks a lot like my second to the oldest brother. But he was an only child from the people that adopted him. He was an only child, and he really wasn't interested in having a new family. So it wasn't one of those, happy, ooh, I've got a family.
Yeah.
Here's my sister. Here's my other 4 brothers. But that's fine. We met, we tried, and then,
Do you think that having to give that child up, did that have an impact? I mean, reflexively, do you see that overshadowing a lot of things?
Yeah, after I knew about it, my mom, let me back up here. She knew the people that adopted him, and she knew where he lived, And she told me one time that she used to drive by their house just to see if she could maybe see him in the front yard playing or something.
Mm-hmm.
So I know, during that whole time before we knew that he was a, had been born and everything, that she carried that with her all those years because she's, she loved him.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah.
And it was, I guess, probably her family, her mom especially, was not really a very nice person anyway, my grandmother on that side of the family. And I'm pretty sure that she probably held it against my mom that happened. I don't know why, because like I said, she was not a nice person to begin with. But that was the one thing that I guess that came out of the divorce that my mom did not want to be revealed, but she knew that she had to tell us. Because if she didn't, she was afraid my dad would, and I don't know if he would have, but, anyway. So, that was a big, when I was 20, I guess I was 20 when that happened, when they got their divorce. So,
That's a big surprise.
It is a big surprise.
Yeah.
And I kind of felt like my whole life then was a lie because that all happened before I was born.
Mm-hmm.
And I think, well, why did they go ahead and stay together? And I was born, and I thought, well, the world wouldn't have me.
It's true.
Oh, that's not. That's silly. But, I've come to the point where it doesn't make me cry anymore. But it was very hurtful and very, I couldn't imagine it.
So what was that like to first to date Dan and then to get married? And I mean, that had to be somewhat separated from all that was going on, right?
Well, we started dating, we met on a blind date in 1972 when I was, I was a junior. It was that fall, I guess, of 1972. And the first thing that we did, if you can believe this, is go to a basketball game because he played, or he was on the team at Glendale. He played occasionally. He wasn't one of their stars, but that was fine. He played. And so, we dated and did all that and got married before this happened with my parents.
Mm-hmm.
They did that after I got married, which I always felt like, were they just waiting for me, to get married before they decided to get divorced? But anyway, yeah. Dan and I got married in 1976, and then they were divorced in 77. So,
how old was Dan when you guys got married?
He was 20. Is that right? He may have been 21 at that point. He's a year and a half older than me. I was 19, so he probably was 21 at that point.
Was he going to college?
No, he didn't go to college either. He went to Grapho Tech school here in town, and that's where he learned all of his computer skills, his IT.
Okay.
And because at that point, colleges weren't really offering that.
Mm-hmm.
And if he had done something like that, he probably would have had to go away from Springfield. But Grapho Tech at the time, that's what became ultimately OTC, Ozark Technical. Mm-hmm. But he thrived over there, and they at that point had kind of a market in Springfield to place all the computer students, and so he got a job working midnight shift at Commerce Bank, and that was where he first started, and moved on up from there, and now we're retired. Yay!
Yeah. No kidding. Well, after you got married, then did you Did you have a job?
I did. Yeah, I
What'd
had
you
a
do?
job. I've had lots of jobs. In high school, I worked out at the fairgrounds at the stock car races they used to have. And I worked in the concession stand and I made corn dogs. We dipped them by hand in the batter and fried them. And I dressed hamburgers with all the things, all the trimmings that went
Yeah.
on them. And then, I won't tell you all my jobs, but when we got married, I shortly after that started working at Campbell 66, which was a truck line here in town. And I worked there until they went under. The boss's daughter and son-in-law bilked the company and made it go bankrupt. And so we all lost our jobs.
Wow.
Yeah. Bill Cloven actually was my boss at one point.
Okay.
Yeah. He worked there. And then I had a couple of interim jobs until I found something that fit me, I guess. And I went to work at Sam's Club.
Mm-hmm.
Before they opened the store there. They opened in February of 1987, and I started there in December of 86. And so I helped open that store. And I worked in the receiving office. And the reason I got hired there was because of my trucking experience at Campbell 66. They wanted somebody that had experience with truck drivers and freight and all that. So that's how I got that job there.
Did you stay there for a long time?
I stayed there until 93, and then I left for a while, and I went to work for Dan Servin at his nursing home doing his bookkeeping. And he was wanting to transfer all of his bookkeeping records from the green ledger books to the computer system. And I was not a bookkeeper. I had never been a bookkeeper in my life, but he showed me, he taught me.
Mm-hmm.
I learned it. Then I transferred everything over to the computers, and I was there a couple years. And then I went back to Sam's for a couple years. And then one of the guys who I had trained at Sam's, they always have manager trainees that come through, and they train in every department. I had trained him. He went on to do, he was a manager at a couple different Sam's stores throughout the United States. And then he came back to Springfield to take care of his grandparents who were elderly. And he bought a business, and he wanted me to come to work for him. And so I did his bookkeeping. And I stayed there until he sold the business. And that was in 2008. And I went to work doing bookkeeping at a Lutheran church here in town, very small. And I did that until my grandson was born. And then I quit and stayed home to babysit him.
Wow.
So, and then I babysat his sister when she was born until she went to kindergarten.
Huh. So, you mentioned early on that you didn't go to college and you had this career. Do you ever wish you would have?
No, I don't think so. None of the jobs that I had required a college degree at that point in time. If I had gone to college, one of my English teachers later on told me that she thought that I would have made a good English teacher. I don't know if that's what I would have done or gone into music. I don't know.
When it came to the musical side of your life, what kind of training did you have there?
Just being in choirs, having teachers teach me things. That's all I have. It's just a gift. I don't have any formal training. It's just what I've learned from people. That's all.
Oh my goodness. I'm really just blown away. For those who are in Schweitzer who will hear this, they know what kind of gift you have when you sing, because it's just really incredible.
Well, I appreciate that.
Yeah.
I do.
And then a lot of Springfield knows your gift too, because you share that by singing the national anthem.
Mm-hmm.
Do you know how many times you've sung the national
I
anthem?
could not even count. No. The first time I sang the national anthem was when, or right after JQH Arena opened up. It's what now is Great Southern Bank Arena. But I sang there, and I believe that was probably 2008-ish. And I'd never sang it before in public. And then from there, it just blossomed, and, I sing it lots of different places. I sang last night at the Springfield Cardinals game. I do Missouri State basketball, men's and women's. I do volleyball. I do men's and women's soccer. I've sung at the World Tennis over here at Cooper.
Yeah.
When they used to have it. I don't know if they still do, but the man who was there, he had retired, and I haven't ever gotten hooked back up with anybody. But recently, I've been doing the Springfield Hall of Fame banquets that they have. And so, yeah, just whoever calls me.
Have you ever put your name or your audition tape in to do it like in Kansas City or St. Louis?
I have sung at the Enterprise Center for the Missouri Valley Conference basketball tournament.
Okay.
I've done that. I've never submitted it to St. Louis. I don't know why, but I just haven't. And but no, I haven't done that. And I really didn't have to submit to the Missouri Valley Conference tournaments because most of those people had heard me here at Missouri State. But so, yeah.
Well, you have you recorded anything?
I recorded when Noteworthy, do you remember Noteworthy was a group? We recorded a CD with, I don't know, 8 or 10 songs on it. And then right before my grandson was born, I made a lullaby CD for him. And every time that he would take a nap at my house, I would play that lullaby CD for him. And he actually, I think as he got a little older, he still listened to it. I'm sure he doesn't now because he's 14, but but it was something special for me to do. And his sister, when she was born, she listened to it as well. So that was just something, that I wanted to do for my grandkids to remember me by.
Yeah. Have you ever thought about if you were going to do a solo album, what you would do, what you'd record?
No, because I don't think I'll ever do one.
You should.
Well, I'm getting a little old for that now,
What is age?
Well, for your voice, it can be bad.
Well, I guess so. I've heard that.
You run out of breath and, things like that, and things start cracking.
Okay.
Notes you used to be able to hit, you can't hit anymore.
Yeah, I've heard that.
Yeah.
Heard that, but anyway. What do you talk about your kids? You've talked about your grandkids just a little bit, but I mean, you and Dan got married pretty young, and then when did kids come in?
I was 23 when our daughter was born, and 27 when our son was born. I wanted to have them 2 years apart, but the year that I would have been pregnant with our son, I had an incident at work one day where I was downstairs in the basement where we had some files and stuff, and I came back upstairs, and when I came upstairs, I felt like I was having a heart attack. But it ended up being what's called a spontaneous pneumothorax. My left lung collapsed just randomly because there was a weak spot on it that the doctor said could have been when I was born. I could have been born with this weak spot. But anyway, so I'm thankful that I was not pregnant that year.
Yeah.
Because that would have been terrible.
Yeah.
But anyway, that they were basically 3.5 years apart. So, and our daughter still lives here in Springfield, and she's the one that has the 2 children that are our grandchildren. Our son currently lives in Denver, but he works from home. So he and his wife normally live in Washington, D.C., but she's on a work assignment in Denver for a couple of years. So anyway, yeah.
What'd you do when they were growing up? I mean, what kind of...
Oh, wow.
When you think about the memories that really stand out, what kind of memories stand out?
They were both involved in sports, obviously, because Dan likes sports.
Yeah.
Alicia played indoor soccer. We tried that. He was not a coach for that because he didn't know really anything about soccer, but she did indoor soccer. She did basketball. Justin did basketball and baseball, and Dan was his coach for both of those, and he was a coach also for Alicia's basketball team. And then we just did a lot of things, as a family. We came to church. That was part of our family thing, was coming to church. Both of them grew up in the youth department here. They were both involved with the choir in school, and in the middle school, and 5th grade, I guess, too, they always had the instruments, where the kids.
Yeah.
And so they played instruments, and we went to all the orchestra concerts. And Justin, in high school, he was in a couple of the musicals that they had at Glendale. And let's see, when they were in college, they were both in music over there for a while. Justin was in the Baritones, which is the a cappella men's group that they have, and he was in that. So yeah, it's always revolved around music and sports, and we never camped. We're not lake people.
Did you travel much?
We did. We went a few places. We went to Disney World, and just odds and ends of places. But yeah, I didn't really travel growing up at all. The only place we ever went was where my 2 older brothers lived. Like Danny lived in Iowa one time. We went to see him. Then he lived in Texas, and we went down there several times. And then Leroy, that's my oldest brother, lived in Denver, so we went there. But we didn't travel. We did camp. We had a tent, and Dad had an old boat, and we would fish, but I haven't done that in years. So, but yeah, the first time that I really started enjoying travel was Justin's senior. I think it was his senior year of high school. Kevin Hawkins used to be the choir teacher at Glendale, and he always took the kids on a trip somewhere, the choir on a trip. So they went to Italy, and Justin came back and said, "Mom, you have got to go to Italy sometime." And I'm like, "No, I'm not interested in, going anywhere out of the United States. No, you've got to go." So the following year, we did go to Europe on a tour. We didn't do it by ourselves, but went on a tour, and we went to Rome and Florence and Venice. We went to Lucerne, Switzerland, and Paris and London. And that was probably one of the best things, that I've ever done, because it got me to really start thinking about travel. And we've been other places, since then. And it was all really, I guess I should thank Kevin Hawkins for, getting Justin interested, and then me interested. So yeah.
Yeah. Kevin Hawkins for a while he was on staff at Schweitzer, wasn't he?
Right. He was the choir director here for a while.
Yeah. I'm not going to ask you who your favorite choir director was. That would put you in Dutch with too many people who may listen. I might ask though, like, as you think about where you've been, do you have any of those places where you'd like to go back to?
Well, on one of the trips, we went to Germany, and we would always talk about going back there and doing like a history tour of like the concentration camps, and we haven't done that. We do want to go, or we have talked about going to Ireland and Scotland, because those are our roots. Mine is mostly Scottish, which I always thought I was Irish and English, but I have a lot of Scotch in me, so I would like to go there sometime.
Okay.
But I mean, Greece was beautiful. Loved it. Italy, there's lots of places in Italy and France that probably I would like to go to again, but there's so many places that I don't know. And I guess I'm one, once I've been somewhere, I've seen it, or I think I've seen everything. I want to go someplace new. Like I know people that go to the same beach every year, and that's the only place they go.
Yeah.
The same place. And I'm thinking, really? There's a lot of places, and there's a lot of places in the United States I haven't been. I've been a lot of places, but there's other places I haven't been. So,
there's a lot to see everywhere. As you think about, you mentioned you're both retired. So you guys have a bucket list of things you want to accomplish?
Like I said, we do want to go to Ireland and Scotland. Dan would really like to go to Australia and New Zealand.
Okay.
I haven't wrapped my head around the fact that it takes so long to get there on a flight.
Yeah.
But, I might warm up to that one of these days.
You just got to get up and walk on the plane.
I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah. But bucket list. Other than that, I can't think of anything really that we're moving again.
Was that on your bucket list?
No.
Oh.
I mean, I guess in a way it was, because we signed up for this place a couple of years ago and didn't really think that we were going to have a chance to get it. But now it has become available to us, so we decided we would just kick the bucket and go.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, like, is it a retirement center?
It's it's another 55 plus place.
Yeah.
And but it's a single unit home, whereas right now we're in a unit with 4 or 5 other, places. Not really apartments. They call them villas, but so we're looking forward to that.
Okay.
And we hope to stay there for a long time until, either, as people say, they drag us out by our feet, or someone places us somewhere else.
Okay. Yeah.
So.
Do you have any bucket list things you want to do with your grandkids?
I personally would like to live long enough to see them graduate high school, maybe college. I don't know what their plans are. I think they probably will go to college. And I would like to be around to see them get married, but who knows? People don't get married like we did when we were 19 and 20 and all that. I was 19, so, I don't think that will happen with either one of them, but you never know.
When you were 19 and right before you got married, did anybody say, you sure you really want to do this? Don't you want to wait a few years?
No, not one person.
Yeah.
And we thought we knew everything. I had a job of some sort since I was 12, I think. So yeah, I was grown up. I knew what was going on. Didn't bother me.
And then you find out you either are or you're not, and it goes pretty fast from that point on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. This will be our 49th wedding anniversary this year.
Wow.
In September. And, we've seen a lot, obviously, because we both lived through the 60s. And, there was a lot of stuff that happened back in the 60s and the 70s. And things have changed, We didn't have computers. We didn't have phones that you carried around. We had a phone that I brought from the living room to my bedroom on a long cord and closed the door so nobody could hear me talking to anyone. And we actually had a party line too when I was young, and you'd have to lift it up, see if anybody was talking before you dialed. And,
Tressa Moyle is the youngest person I've ever met who's been on a party line. She's like in her upper 40s right now. And I'm like, I didn't even know they existed. I mean, I knew they existed, but like not to the point where, because she's a few years younger than I am.
Yeah.
So I'm like, this is really amazing.
Yeah. Well, she lived in a more rural setting too. You know. I always lived in Springfield, but still, part of it was outside the city at one point. But
any big, like you mentioned, like going to church when you're a kid, but any big faith turning moments in your life?
I went to church camp, and there was a evangelist there, and I do remember, going down, and I had already I was saved when I was 5, and I know a lot of people are like, you can't be saved when you're 5, but I do remember that very vividly in my mind. The day that it happened, I was so excited, I was happy, I couldn't wait to go home and talk about it. And but the church camp was when I was a teenager in high school, and the evangelist was there, and I do remember feeling not a call to like ministry or anything like that, but I knew that church had to be a part of my life, the rest of my life. It had to be. That's God was speaking to me, telling me, that he was going to be with me the whole time. And he has been through a lot of rough times. And sometimes I don't always see it until later, but I know he's there. So.
Do you have a favorite song that you sing with the choir?
That I sing with the choir?
Yeah.
Well, it used to be My Help.
I haven't heard that in a couple of years.
Yeah, it's been a while. And, I still love the song. And that song helped me through the day that my dad, after he died. It helped me through that day at the funeral and everything. But, of course, right now, I guess everybody, I bowed on my knees and cried holy. They're like, oh, that's your song now. That's your signature song. And, I love that song too. Yeah. Those two probably would be my favorites.
Well, I think you could sing gospel all day long. I think you could sing Motown all day long. You could probably sing the phone book all day long.
Now you sound like Simon Cowell.
Okay. Okay. Well,
that's what he tells people. They could sing the phone book. Or whatever.
Yeah, you definitely have a very unique, distinct, and gifted voice, and so.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that. Like I said, it's a God-given gift.
Yeah.
And someday I won't probably be able to sing, but I guess until I can't, I will.
Well, I hope you keep on singing.
Well, thank you.
Yeah, I hope you keep on singing. Mary, thanks so much for coming in today.
Well, thank you for asking.
Yeah.
I was surprised, when I got the letter and asking me, and I thought, okay. I can do this.
You can do this. Yeah, indeed. And I'll look forward to a recording, like a full album of your stuff someday.
All right.
I think if...
You keep dreaming, Jason.
Okay. I'll talk to Dan, see if we can't put that on your bucket list.
Okay. All right. He can write it in for me.
There you go. Big thank you to Mary for sharing her story. In listening to Mary, I hope that you were inspired, encouraged, and challenged, and that you begin to behold the really cool people around you. The Really Cool People podcast is produced by Schweitzer Church, Springfield, Missouri. Taylor Likes is our executive producer and editor, and I'm your host, Jason Leininger. You can help us out by liking, reviewing, and sharing this podcast. We love 5-star reviews, and if you've got something less than that, then forget I mentioned it. But until next time, stay cool.